We've spoken a lot about that idea. This is a picture I'm repeating here for you that I got from Google, which is always associated with helping others. And looking for other people, it seems like human beings are thirsty for decentralization. Professor Siri Hum, I like him very much. There's a series about that there is a negative foundation of the small I, the small ego, to forget about yourself, to remember others, or else it's not possible. If you are trapped with your own I, you're always going to be pulled down. So you have to think about less about yourself, and you need to start noticing the intensity of the pain of others and the intensity of the suffering of others and the mystery in the other person. I remember that I was reading a book that doesn't really mean that's the absolute truth, because indeed all of these books are symbolic, but it's a famous Eastern book that talked about the afterlife. And this Eastern piece of work, coherent with the culture it belongs to, said that man after life lives in some sort of mental bubble, an illusion bubble, in which he's alone there. And in this bubble he calls Devakan. He projects all of his mental fantasies and illusions, and he lives for them. And according to this tradition, the time he spent on this sphere is much longer than the one that we live here. And it said something that I was really shocked until today. It is still in my mind. The only moment I truly have to spend with you is here and now. In other spheres, I'll be completely alone with my fantasies, my mental illusions. The only time we can share is now, because they're not mental fantasies. You're other creatures. You're real creatures. And if we had the notion, the real notion of the privilege this is, how fantastic this is, we wouldn't waste time. In other spheres, we're a bubble in our mental, and you are privileged. So let's take advantage of it. So we'll spend a time, according to that tradition, bored of so much solitude, and that right now we are with each other. And that is a rare thing, and that is a privilege. And if we knew how privileged we were, we would take advantage of it better. Agreeing with that metaphysical notion, isn't that beautiful idea that we're here privileged time to take advantage of it? So let's go. Let's continue. Helena Blavatsky, for example, she spoke a lot about that when she referred to the masters that taught her everything she knew. When I remember myself, I forget about the masters. When I forget about myself, I remember the masters. In other words, I remember the teachings, the pain of I stop whining like this. People did this to me. I expect this from them. Oh, why didn't they do this to me? Oh my God, nobody looks at me. Look, nobody called me on my birthday. Oh my God. So when you stop to think about that, you notice the happiness of others. You are amazed at how rich that is. And that other part is a part of yourself. When you think about that self, there's a student of mine that said that once, if we are one, my greatest part is you. Isn't that interesting? If we're one, my greatest part is all of you. And that is really interesting. I really like that. So humility and lucidity are essential, because one of the most boring things are that wisdom provider. The wisdom providers are the owners of truth. So I have an amount of wisdom, and I'm willing to share it to you. And the owner of any truth is such a boring person. That is putting a lot of weight in my back. I am a being under construction. And what is right is to share it with other people. I always remember when I was younger, I have a niece that was almost my age at the time, a little younger than me. I went home, and whenever I would get a candy at the cafeteria, haven't you ever seen this before? You would want to share it with another colleague of yours. We have this need of that anguish to share it with somebody else. And this niece of mine did the same. It was a juquinha. I was carioca, and or I would share that, or I would share the tamarindo candy. It was very popular. The half of the candy I would have to share with my friend, as if the candy would taste better if she tasted it too. The little I had, the juquinha candy, I would like to share with her. How good? Okay, doesn't matter if I have two, three, but I would always like to have to share with her. But I'm not the owner of the Juquinha Candy Factory. This humility is the necessity of the lucidity to this cult of the personality, a lot of boredom. Nobody wants to know this selfishness, this arrogance of things. So it's interesting to notice that an intellectual person, but very arrogant in her intellectualism, the more intellectual she is, the more vain she becomes. A wise man, the wiser he is, the humbler he becomes, to the extent to get to a Socrates to say, I only know I know nothing. And he's not lying about that. He already knows the glimpse of how much he needs to learn. And comparing with what he knows, that means he doesn't know anything. I usually say, I only know I know nothing because Socrates says so, or else I wouldn't even know that. See that? How this is desperating that is, to live in ignorance. So, looking at this we have followed, fundamentally with Plato's idea, we reach the conclusion that goodness is the application of good in the world, helping yourself in the direction of the unit in a more efficient way day by day. There's a praying that is really beautiful, and it goes like this: that I can go to the limits of my possibilities to be good, but that my limits are pushed further away tomorrow. Do you get that? That I go to my limits today, but tomorrow I can push them a little bit further. In the name of goodness, my limits are going to be 2 millimeters further away from what they are today. So that is what we are, servants of the idea of good. The idea of good is symbolized by the sunlight. The sunlight illuminates, the sunlight feeds and vitalizes us. Do I do that to people? Do I do that for myself, for people? Do I eliminate or do I reveal the beauty of things through my life? So we need to bring light to people, right? We need to observe if we're theoretical or if we do that literally or not. So observe your footprint. If you are around you, if around you is chaotic, all broken, then you have to look behind yourself. The places you've been through, we're not fantasies. Human beings are very funny. I have already given up classifying them. I look around and see how it goes, as a student of mine used to say, okay? Because many times we do exercising in philosophy course here in New Acropolis, and in some more advanced groups, we're really comfortable with them, of course, because we ask them to speak and say, like, what do you think is your strongest virtue? The ones that want will answer it. What, after teaching for 5-6 years, you already know, you have a certain degree of knowledge of that person. So how many times a person say that she has a virtue when she actually has that is her greatest flaw, and the person says, I'm very organized, sometimes even too much, and there is a person that gets late in the class and say, I'm very punctual. I'm even neurotic about it. And I don't know what type of mask people put in their flaws so they don't see them. That generates this type of bizarre things. I don't understand. That's why in philosophy we need to remove those masks so that we can see their true faces. Intelligently, to choose among. For when we think about it, we need to see what things truly are, what people truly are. So here's another important things. We're going to talk about categorical and hypothetical imperatives. I have announced that before the break. You should observe that the whole life, that is very important, that is very good. It's Kant's groundwork of metaphysics of morals. But Kant is it has many good things. The groundwork of metaphysics of morals came from a concept. I'm going to quickly talk about that. If I want something, I'm going to get another. If I don't do that, I'm going to lose another. I will be punished or rewarded. A person just does that for fear of punishment or for the stimulus of reward. That is hypothetical imperative. And another is the categorical. If I do this, I lose that. That is not it. I do it because I am honest, for example. Will I be rewarded? No, because I'm a human being. I'm good. Why? Because if I'm not good, somebody will punch me. No, because I'm human. Because the plant does photosynthesis. Animals have survival instincts for the species perpetuation. I need to be fair, honest, good, because I'm a human being. And sometimes I'm even similar to divine, and that is the categorical imperatives. And now I'm going to call your attention to a very important thing. The majority things part of your life is hypothetical, and but the most valuable ones are categorical. So you have to turn this game around and transform things more into categorical than in hypothetical. For example, a person in love. Can I use you as a victim? She is in love, and I ask her, why are you so much in love and like him so much? Oh, because he's wealthy. Have you ever seen his paycheck? Wow. I am going to say, you're doing a social security plan, isn't it? Isn't it? And then you tell me, I'm very kind and attentive. I'm a very gentle person. So why are you so gentle? Why are you so kind to the person? Oh, because he's the CEO of that company. Maybe he can employ me in the future. I'm going to say, you're trying to do personal marketing. That's not kindness, isn't it? The true love loves because he loves. To love, an intransitive verb. The true kindness is kind because it's kind. So, because you're human, and the modus operandi of a human being is to have those characteristics. And you're not going to ask the floor polisher, why do you polish? She's going to answer, I'm a floor polisher. What do you expect from me? But the human being has the annoying free will, and he's so annoying that instead of doing what is proper of a human being, he becomes a floor polisher, or anything else. So the categorical imperative in relation to good is fundamental because it's the greatest of the virtues. It's the greatest of all virtues. Oh, why are you going to be good? Because I'm a good girl, and Santa will bring me presents. And when you find out that you don't have Santa Claus, and that is all over, and you're not a good girl anymore, so I fulfill myself doing that. All creatures fulfill themselves being what they are, because nature expects that from me, because that this makes me occupy my place in space. There is nothing better than that. Nothing is evil in the world if the creatures do what they need to do, because evil doesn't exist if we do what we need to do, if we are in the right place doing what the universe expects from us. So you say, for example, talk about corruption, because in Brazil we love talking about that. Corruption. Wow, that is outrageous. But the detergent, it's a detergent of all virtues. Corruption, the detergent is biodegradable. Why? Because if it's not like that, if it's not used like that, it contaminates, isn't it? There are certain things that have to be corrupted, but human beings' behavior doesn't belong to that list. Oh, laziness is horrible. Okay, I agree, but your house's door needs to have inertia, or else the burglar can break in. Inertia, which is another name for laziness, is good for a dog, but not good for a human being. Do you understand that? So start putting each thing in its proper place, and everything will enter in its right path, its natural flow. Everything fits as a great puzzle. When I'm good, I'm a human being, that's keeping each thing in each place. So stay in your own realm in its first place, okay? Stay in your right place and everything will be harmonized. So when one piece of the puzzle is found, it helps all others. Have you ever danced in a group before? The person that dances well, everybody else will copy her in the room. Everyone waited for her to find her place, for everybody else to find their place. Have you ever participated in something like that before? Ballet? Just forget about that. I was not the good dancer that taught everyone, okay? Sorry about that. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so no other interest. Anything else that you think I'm doing is categorical as hypothetical? Sometimes we fool ourselves. We need to be honest with ourselves. Oh, I'm going to do this because I'm honest. No, I'm actually going to do this because she has done that to me before, and I'm going to do it that back to. I'm going to tell her about the error she committed because I'm an honest person. I can't lie. No, in the end of the day, you want to massacre her. You want to make her pay for what she did. So you notice the hypothetical popping all over the place. Categorical is, I do this because I'm human, because I must do that. I'm going to heaven, to hell, to be recognized. And when I do this, it doesn't matter if I am good because I need to be good. Do you understand that? That you just do it for doing it, and you don't think about what's going to happen afterwards. That is important. The faces are so varied here. I always tell a story in my lectures about a Sufi tale, talking about the Sufi chief, a wise man that wasn't a camel, that somehow there was another traveler that God knows how his camel got scared and threw him in a abyss. Do you remember this tale? The chief was behind him, and he took off his clothes off. He ripped them apart, trying to make a rope and trying to get a branch and getting the guy out of there. Suddenly, in the tradition of in this tradition, the greatest authority is the angel Gabriel opens the doors of Helen's heaven and says, "You have already demonstrated to be good enough to enter Allah's heaven. So relax, let that be." And he says that wise man looks below and sees the man hanging in the branch and looks up and sees Angel Gabriel and says, "Look, can't I switch a good place in Allah's heaven for a piece of rope? What do I need to be good now? The Allah's heaven or a rope? A rope. So I'll see where I go later, but please give me the rope now." Do you see how this is? I want to be a human being in that situation. I am living this moment right now, and what comes later, what will happen to what any other human being will happen to any normal human being, as anything that would be normal of a human being. So you will have the answer of a human being. But right now, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? A rope, right? So I need to save this human being. Therefore, to have an action itself, why do I need to do this? Because I need to be good. The goodness cannot be contaminated by anything. It's very pure. It's categorical by nature. And we know that. We understand that intuitively. What is the distorted mask of goodness? What is it called? Hypocrisy, demagogy. We already think, there comes that guy. I can't stand that. We know enough. We know enough. We have the intuition to identify that. Saint Augustine, in his Confessions, in fact, his book is very beautiful. He said the following: right is right even if no one is doing it. Wrong is wrong even if if everyone is doing it. You help someone in distress, and another person also helped this person. So who was truly good? A good-looking person fell down. So an authority is passing by. You want to impress and show off. But pulling that person from the floor is the same. Is not for appearance, but for the spirit that is behind the action. But it's sensitive for the one that is in the floor to notice that someone, whenever he touches this person's hand, it's very sensitive. You can notice that one leaves a deep mark in the heart of this person, and the other one doesn't. So goodness just for show, and that was not even before the civilization. It was done even before the civilization was born. So continuing, aspects of goodness. Beethoven. I thought it was really interesting because this sentence of his helps me very much to talk badly about nice people, especially because they're intelligent. They aren't intelligent, in fact. There is an intelligence without goodness. Intelligence, remember, comes from intelligere, to choose among. And that is discernment. That is the good grain, the good seed. Intelligence is looking for the seed of goodness among the futile and temporary things. It's looking for the small silver thread inside the human being. So what is the intelligence being? What would intelligence be looking for within things? Oh, looking for the best opportunity to get money. That is cunningness, financial cunningness. The true intelligence is looking for goodness. It is the agent that looks for goodness. If you don't have goodness, intelligence comes from cunningness. So You need to value, it really values yourself when it's happy with you. It looks in all things, even the circumstances that happen in your life. I teach that, and I say this silly things to motivate you to do more things to humanity. The experiences can be really silly. I went to the movies, and there wasn't the greatest movie, but there was a scene that I liked very much. It was really philosophical. A mother was suffering very much because her son, was going through a problem, and it was really ill. And there was a death angel that dressed as a human and asked him, "Has someone died?" And she said, "Yes, my son has just died." And she said, "Have you ever tried to see the hidden beauty of it? Have you ever watched this movie? Have you ever tried to see the hidden beauty?" And I thought, how interesting. In a certain way, even the most difficult and suffering situations we face, the intelligence looks for the hidden beauty, the goodness seed that you can extract from that situation. So if that is manifested, there is a hidden beauty that is manifested, something that can redeem yourself from to decrease people's pain besides your own. So what else? We should taste the unit so that we can commit to it. Can you imagine these wild ideas I have? When cocoa arrived in Europe, nobody wanted to taste that. It was really dark, really ugly, and it came from a place that people considered to be the underground of the underground. No one wanted to taste that, right? No way on earth. But you know what happened, right? The unoccupied, the Belgian people came along. They don't have anything to do. They mix that with milk, put sugar, and put that in little bars to make things worse. After people tasted that, that was it. We are suffering for centuries on end because of that. But once you tasted that, it were eternally going back there. That has absolute value. If you haven't tasted it and it's just theoretical, you don't know what it truly is. For you to have an urge of the goodness search, you have to taste it and see that effect on you. Try it out, the true goodness, and observe how that settles inside you. Just like tasting wine, the wine notes, dry autumn leaves wine notes. Have you seen that before? There was a crazy guy called Robert Parker. He always tastes dry autumn leaves in his wine. He's fooling us around. Goodness has a flavor. It seems its taste is giving us balance. We feel it as if we have a more solid ground. We feel more balanced, more harmonized. It gives us that feeling like the wind can cross you, and it's well structured, that all things are in the right place. You are whole and no longer in the chaos. The structure, order, each thing is in its right place. The feeling of being ourselves, of having a feeling of belonging. One night of sleep of the Fairman. You have tasted something like that. It's worse than chocolate. You will always want more. And that taste of goodness, it makes you want more, okay? It generates chords inside you. Feel what type of day gives you, what type of night, what type of dream, what type of vigilance, what type of peacefulness. That is the taste of goodness. Goodness is something fantastic. I'm going to say something that I have already said, but it's worth saying it again. When my children were really young, there was an ointment. I'm not going to say the name. I don't want to sponsor a brand specifically. I'm not going to say, but I used to say that it was a magical ointment. Whenever they would have wounds, bruises, it would get better. And every time they would have any scratches, anything, they would go, "Mommy, the magical ointment." And for me, the ointment was really magical. Any pain, any cut, we would put it and it disappeared. It worked, it decreased the pain and the temperature, and it seemed to balance things, making things more even, more normal like than before. It integrates things inside us. It's an ointment that removes pain from anything. It gives a sense, and it takes things from the randomness. You need to try this ointment, this magical thing. Once you experiment it, you become more crazy than the chocoholics. I have nothing to do with that. I don't belong to this group. You will never see me do that. I'm not gonna beg for chocolate because I already have a stock at home. But understand that this is an effect of the magical ointment. Goodness is this. You need to feel it, taste it, to remember the taste, and entice this urge to go back to this point. As Leonardo da Vinci used to say, once you have tasted flight, you forget walking on earth with the eyes turned skyward, for there you have been and there will always long to return. It's an experience that generates a precedent. And now you will have the need to feed this type of feeling again. It gives you the immense security, a power feeling, which is part of goodness. So let's continue. Aspects of goodness. We have already talked about that. To stand ground without losing heaven from your sights. In other words, okay, I want to be good, but I will be good with him, to her, to him, to her, with everyone. It can adapt, but only until the point in which it doesn't lose its core. It can't adapt so much that it stops being goodness and becomes demagogy. In other words, like a great car that goes very fast, it's very resistant, but in a good pavement, there is a lot of, if there are a lot of holes, you have to go in a four-wheel drive, a lower speed, and be more careful. But it's still a car. But be careful with excessive adaptation of goodness. No, it's because so and so are more fragile and I have to act in a different way. Okay, but any human being is different from one another, and you will have to adapt, but adapt without losing its essence and direction. If you're not doing that, be careful, because it's not goodness anymore. You can fall into demagogy. So the person thinks that you are a nice person. I want her to like me. But what's behind that? In other words, you have to know exactly what is adapting and what is mutilation. Be attentive. Don't confuse. I'm different. I'm tolerant. Okay, we need to tolerate more, but not everything. Or else you're not being good anymore. You're going to be a flatterer, a demagogue, acting personalistically with personalistic intentions, or you have falling into a trap. Goodness gives individual and collective development, but it doesn't oblige anyone. Goodness invites, but doesn't oblige. I remember it's a best educational instrument. When I give lectures about education recently, I have talked about this. This posture as an educator, you have to do that. It's fundamental, or else you're going to lose direction to help others, because it's risky for both of us falling apart. For going upwards, you can count on me, but going downwards, don't count on me. You have to make all invitation in the world, but there are some people that won't come. We have already had times where we had very wise men stepping on earth and people didn't see that. So even Plato said there were people that wouldn't come along. So knowing how to accept the limits of our power, it's part of using our power well. Knowing how to apply the good part of our power. Goodness doesn't impose itself. It signalizes but doesn't impose itself. Continuing, the expectation that you will impose yourself already makes goodness to not be genuine, because if that person doesn't come, you will get frustrated and you will doubt your own tools and not your lack to sense of lucidity. Plato will talk more about that in details. If you use goodness in the wrong way, if people don't correspond, you don't have faith in people, in goodness, and then you don't do it anymore. So that comes from maturity, wisdom of the sages. It's important to use that with intelligence and lucidity. Ethical pact, that's there as well. It's a conversation that doesn't end. Ethics isn't conditional or hypothetical. I do this because I'm going to pay, or else I'm going to pay a fine, or else I'm going to lose my job. Ethics imposed on people is dressage. True ethics is like this: I'll serve good and I'll serve even if I'm trapped all alone in an island. There is no speed controller or anything to find me or to blame me for killing the animals there. There's nothing. And why am I good? Because I have made a pact with goodness. There's no one looking. I am looking at myself. And I have to serve goodness. I am a human being. What do you expect from a human being? To serve good. There's a lecture of mine on YouTube. Someone have already watched it. It's the autodidact philosopher. It's exactly a person wanting to be alone in an island, wanting to do everything his nature allowed him to do. And he really does that. He imitates the good examples of nature and does everything that nature allows him to do and reaches wisdom. Alone in an island, there was no one there watching him. Okay, and the implementation of goodness demands love, intelligence, discipline, attention, will, resistance, identity, and commitment. If you want to serve good, if you want to be good, in addition, you will receive all of these tools, and the end product will be to become wiser. Good paves the way, it matures you, it gives wisdom as a result. So it's really impressive. Now I see a few voices in some parts of the world noticing that wisdom. That isn't intellectualism, it isn't accumulating information, it's training the value and making values come from you. Goodness paves wisdom. I'm soon going to explain that with a concrete example that exists in the current world. Goodness is the mother of all values. Once again, I'm going to use Plato in his last appearance here. Don't be mad at him. Soon enough, he will leave. He used to say in a very geometrical way, of course, Plato inspires himself a lot in Pythagoras, that goodness is the uno. It serves the uno. It's a messenger from the uno. It identifies itself with it. Imagine the universe when it's born. First, it's zero, the void. And then comes the unit, the demiurge, father of all creatures, Parabrahman. This uno, when it wants to create the universe, the first thing it does is to divide itself and generate two, the spirit and the matter. And right after, to generate the universe, it generates three, the four, and so on. I'm not going to give you the spoilers of the end. But three is the first time of the uno manifesting itself in the three-dimensional universe. The smallest tri-dimensional object that exists is tetrahedron. In other words, a pyramid of triangular side. The smallest spatial object that exists is the tetrahedron. And what is the tetrahedron? It's the uno that for the first time lays foot on the tridimensional world. The uno manifests itself as will, love, and intelligence. And from will, love, and intelligence, you divide from will comes determination, strength, stamina, and from love comes compassion, mercy, and so on. Until the most earthy ones. And those are the three direct children of good when it parks on Earth in the Uno spaceship. It parks in the three-dimensional world. The first thing is that it manifests in threes. In other words, it's the three basic virtues. And then comes all the virtues of the world. Goodness is the touchstone, and it sediments all the other virtues in the world. And it's from goodness that comes love, will, intelligence, and everything else. Did you understand? Or did it get too geometrical for your taste? The uno to be able to park in the world needs this trio. And that is exactly what goodness does. It parks as will, love, and intelligence. Continuing our story, oh my goodness, it's almost time. Facts need to prove the word's goodness. That's Seneca. He's talking about coherence, right? Goodness of words, thoughts, actions, that is coherence. If there's any rupture in this way, it's only lifeless good intention. And goodness, it isn't lifeless. It's efficient. Remember that I said that the root of the word before. Nobody should be complimented for their goodness when they don't have the strength to be evil. This Foucault was impaired. but he's right. And people who interpret him are also right. A powerless person is like the fox and the grape's tail. The fox isn't able to catch the grapes and starts finding weakness in them, using many excuses not getting them. The person that doesn't stand a chance is sick, poor, and has limiting condition is a nice person. And when he gives him a power, he becomes a gangster. Be careful. Good is associated with power. Some people are nice for survival strategy. People give me this, so I don't have the power to get them myself. So if you give me the power, I can become an animal. So be careful with that, because weakness is confused with goodness. In fact, Western culture in the last centuries has started doing this confusion. The idea of goodness associated with, and it still misleads us a lot. All other sciences are harmful for those who don't own the science of goodness. Okay, this was Michel de Montaigne. She was absolutely right. The person is a great doctor. Who does he have? What does he have? The medical technique. What about goodness? So, what Gestapo's medicine was for in the SS? It served to torture Jewish people, wasn't it? It served the worst of all interests. Medicine, engineering, any technique, if it's not connected to goodness, be careful. It can serve really bad things. And the better it is, the worse it gets. In other words, they were right, the ones who said that it's better to have an ignorant bad person than to have an smart a smart bad person. If there isn't goodness, the best human being being ignorant is good. It causes less harm. Like Jeremy Bentham in the utilitarianism, I don't really like this way of thought, but I liked his words in this quote. All goodness act is a demonstration of power. You dominate the selfishness within yourself, alienation, collective unconsciousness that thinks you shouldn't care about this. It's the other person's problem. Okay. Goodness never pushes, it always pulls upwards. Even if pulling up can be strong and painful, like a mother pulling the child's fingers from the outlet, not necessarily a little kiss or sweet, kind words, but a strong pull, it always pulls up, and that requires strength. It's very unlikely that given the size of humanity's need, the good people would be weak, and the task is too high, is too immense. Goodness doesn't match with weakness. Be careful, because, as I say a lot, power nowadays it doesn't have the same meaning. We associate with politics, and we think power is corrupt. Machado de Assis used to say, the sentence that says the opportunity makes the teeth is wrong. The opportunity makes the crime. The teeth is already comes from birth. He was 17 years old. He was 17 years old, and he worked in a newspaper called Marmota Fluminense. And he was already bold like this. So be careful saying power corrupts, because you need to think power generates opportunity, and power intensifies what you already have. If you are corrupt, you will be more corrupt. If you're good, you're going to do great things. Power is to be able to do. Do you picture a weak God? What is the greatest attribute of God? So all goodness act necessarily need to demonstrate a demonstration of power. Goodness is it is for the strong people. Continuing, you are hated either doing good or evil deeds. This could only come from Machiavelli, right? But he's right? If you want to do something to be popular, give up, because whatever you do, people will criticize you. Some will like you, some will hate you. So you need to think about another type of compensation, because, in fact, people talk more badly about good people than evil people. And sometimes it inverts, but people talk badly about everyone. That's the truth. The fact is that you cannot guide your action by this stimulus, because people always talk badly. Something that I will say later on, you have to really be careful about this type of motivation that is related to technology. I don't know great good men who were acknowledged by their contemporaneous, sometimes not even their extemporaneous. There are some people that until today are still fighting for their image, and not much has changed. Martin Luther King has a very famous and beautiful speech that goes like this: "What worries me is not the cry of the corrupt, but the violent, the dishonest, the spineless, or the unethical. What worries me is the silence of the good." So the good people have to be good because goodness is strength. Goodness is bringing light in the world. Aren't you a good messenger of the sun? The idea of good? It's a compromise to goodness. So sometimes you are so different that you end up being an antiquity. Good people, in fact, usually don't like nice people because they don't have protagonism, they don't have stamina. Let's change the word. Nice person will stand still because they don't want to displease anyone. Okay, continuing, I make an effort to be better every day. That because goodness is also learned. That is by our writer Cora Coralina. In other words, goodness is practiced like musculature at the gym. You develop spiritual and moral musculature that allows you each day to have wingspan for greater things. That is, to have more power, more strength, more self-confidence, more stamina, more worship to get there. Your heart is already there at the feet of the world. Now, the only thing missing is the rest of your body to follow. Courage comes from core, heart. So goodness will become stronger with practice, like a musculature that have to be developed. I have already talked about this with you before. Be careful about popular sayings. If you do something good, you will receive twice more as a stock market. That is not true goodness. If you don't receive that, all you're going to think, oh, I was cheated on. I have to go to the Cosmic Consumer Protection Agency to complain. If I do this, God will give me twice more. What God do for you? You will always receive more. Come on. There is no such a thing. Don't believe this idea. I think I'm going to do a lecture just about this, the myths of the 20th and the 21st century. Everywhere you go, there's this type of thing, and it's very well intentioned. I remember there was a sentence during the water shortage here in Brasilia that I hated. They used to say, if you use right, you will be all right. And I was like, come on. It's not just to serve them. So people think things are good because they serve us. But you need to think that we're full of these sayings, and it is so behind them. There's so much selfishness that is out of this world. So those things are full of investors from the stock market in the capitalism era. So those are the installments of the post-mortem good luck, isn't it? Have you ever determined how many stars you want in your heaven? Because depending on your demands, you need to have more. Be careful with the hypothetical. We need to pay close attention to it. It's treacherous. Remember the Academy of Plato. We need to think about examples that give us more musculature of goodness. There are a few classic examples I leave you so that you strengthen that musculature. So to transform problems into opportunities. So you imagine the following. I recently spoke about this. You are suffering from depression. You are inside that depression feeling like the worst of the creatures without any energy, which is typical from depression. And you look at the statistic and you see there are thousands of people and even millions. People killing themselves all over the world because of depression. Is it possible to help those people by putting myself in their shoes? Is the situation that I am going through maybe helpful for those millions that are suffering as well? Because I'm inside that situation. So if I find a way out, I can help more people. Look at that opportunity. Plato in the Republic that said that in the Republic, the doctors, the good ones, should have suffered from the same illness to have the patient from that illness. Because if you are living that drama from within, You can see that there are people coming from the same problem, and you can, if you overcome it, you can help people to come out of it as well. So consider that, how many people I can help if I get out of this problem. And it's not if anymore, it's I will go get out of this problem to help other people. It's an opportunity. So goodness is therapeutical. Remember that. I've told you that before. It's a magical ointment. If you put a selfless good act in a pain, in any pain, you will see you can help the worst of the pains. It's very therapeutical. And I've seen recently that this is therapeutical, and it has already been recognized by doctors to have physical, somatic effects, the psychosomatic, moral, spiritual, all spheres. Ask questions to life. It's very interesting. A little while ago, setting is my slide presentation, and someone said, wow, you really practice that. Yes, I like this because I find it fundamental. Imagine today I wake up, today I will have one goodness act, and that is a wonderful goal. Every day a clear and aware goodness act. So start moving symbolically to give yourself answers. Jung called that synchronicity. Life moves to give you answer when you ask sincerely and is attentive. Soon enough, you will notice things moving around, and you will think, "Wow, this detail here! I've never noticed people needed this before. I can help here, or nature, or an animal. Look, I come here every day. I've never noticed there is an excellent opportunity of goodness here." Ask life questions and it will start showing you things, sometimes in a more explicit manner, sometimes in a more subtle manner, but you have to interpret it. Have you never done this before? Because when life gives you answer and you get them, that has an evident aspect. So it's immense that it's difficult for anyone to say you're imagining things, because you have felt that. You have lived a vivid experience that is an evidence. I have asked a question life, and life has given me that answer. Do you understand that? Has any of you lived something similar? Asking questions to the day, and the same day, seeing the answer moving towards you? From the most subtle to the most explicit when it happens. In fact, when there are very explicit answer, I get a little scared because I think that I'm too dumb and life is like, come on, it's here. No? Hasn't this ever happened to you? I'm not even going to say anything and get into details because you're going to think that I'm going through a told story. But it happens. Some answers are more obvious and others are more subtle. It's normal. So ask life, where can I have a goodness act today? Where is my blind spot? How can I find that blind spot? And if you are attentive, you will see the answers. What else? Be a compiler. There is a quote from Michel de Montaigne that was very used by the 19th century philosopher that was Helena Blavatsky. People used to say, wow, you are so wise. The best thing to say is, no, these flowers aren't mine. I'm only responsible for the ribbon that holds them together. Do you know what she did with her life? It was a life of a flower collector. There are flowers spread in the four corners of the world, in your life, in your family, in people's history, in humanity's history. People, recently we've seen this from Beethoven to Machiavelli. We've collected flowers, and together we have done a bouquet because of that. So we are a goodness compiler. So think about the current, the past stories, close and distant ones. Rescue that friend, family member that had a goodness act that was unquestionably pure, and that was with no selfish interest. And you have to find that bouquet so that you can provide that to other people. Be a compiler of goodness and receive this inheritance from goodness that is spread out in history. Notice that the inheritance, and join it all to give the gift to the next person. So that in historical moments like ours, without humanity. So to work with the whole and not only with the particular. So I'm good, I'm fair. For what? For humanity. Not only for so and so, because they will betray you, turn their back on you, and you will feel disappointed, and that deception can remove your stimulus, drain your energy. The individual cases are bad because people cheat on you and you regret and then you come back. So don't attach yourself to individuals. Nobody stands that. Humanity instability is something that is good only for God. So isn't it? Because the human beings are very unstable. Oh, I love that person because that is a stimulus. But okay, but that person is going to change so much you will get confused. Do it for humanity, for the whole. And you forget about that person that cheated on you, that had a problem, that turned back on you, then forgot about you. One day he will find his place, but right now he hasn't found it yet. But as a human being, he deserves this. There are many others that deserve it too. Don't expect the reaction of a person or a small group that is impaired to inflict many disappointments on us. Goodness can't inflict disappointment, but if it's inflicting it, it's because you're not using it well. So don't be attached to particular cases because they are very unstable. Goodness is a mission that illuminates and gives meaning to the experiences of life. This is a very beautiful story. Maybe some of you are already familiar to it because our current society doesn't find a place for all the stages of life. A very old person in the current society, people don't know how to deal with her. We hate aging and we don't know what to do with it. We try to deal with old age. Actually, we don't deal with it until we get there, right? We don't find its place, and we make this excessive cult to youth. And for me, this is the greatest philosophical scoldings I have. I sometimes look at a person that is 40, 50, 60 years old and speak to her, and the level of determination of will, lucidity, and wisdom. If she had only 5 years left, she would do more than a young person in 50. People don't understand time. Oh, because youth is the future. Be careful. What future? You have to see what human beings have to offer. Julius Caesar in his 50s walked by Alexander the Great statue and the museum and said, oh, how great he was. But he was much greater than him. And Coralina started writing novels in her old age. Look at the difference that she made. Be careful because time is very subjective. And our society, based on this lie, based on the lack of social comprehension about time, which is normal, Nelson Mandela did something very useful after 5 years inside prison, isn't it? When he became South Africa's president, he was older, and the wisdom he stored in his years in the prison cell. So be careful about time. It's not like that. They're telling you the wrong story. Youth is determination and capacity to transform the world. And maybe the long dreamt youth will be found in the 17 years old. Okay? One of the most important things that I found in this experience about Zimbabwe is because not only they solved the problem, a person found also a way of rescuing the value of old age. This doctor, who is a contemporary of ours, a young man still, in his 40s, 50s, is called Dixon Shimbanda. 12 psychiatrists that exist in Zimbabwe. 12 psychiatrists in a country. And it's a country that has a high rate of suicide due to depression, and there are no doctors. There is nothing to be done. On occasion, he loses a patient that lived in a community 300 kilometers away from him that was repeatedly attempting suicide. He asked her mother to bring her to an appointment because she didn't have $15 to buy the bus fare. And the girl dies. She was only 26 years old. For the anguish that he felt inside. So he asked the hospital to bring more psychiatrists from abroad, and they said, it's not possible, we can afford it because of this and that. People think that this is a priority, and this is not a priority, so we don't have money for that. So what did Dr. Dixon Shibanda did? Imagine this, goodness is power, and power doesn't accept the door closed. It cuts way, and the ways are there. Where there is goodness, there is always a path. He simply remembered that Zimbabwe was full of old ladies in the elderly years. Old ladies, sometimes even in advanced age. And those old ladies, sometimes uneducated and sometimes illiterate. He got these old ladies, these grandmothers of the Zimbabwe, and started training them in groups certain basic principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, and started to put these groups of old ladies as being the voice of Zimbabwe and to take care of the depressed people of the villages of their communities all across the country. So that is it. The old ladies went there. Recently, he did two groups for comparison. One takes care take care by the old ladies, and the other ones take care by him. And he said that the old ladies had a better result. So the entire world started going there to know exactly how that was done and to train with him. In New York, United States, they started to do that as well. So imagine that these were there, thrown away, and they had wisdom and so much love to give. That was the way out of their world. Now imagine that we have this mission to treat depression on people, and that is a privilege. And you transform that and eliminates people's life, and they make fantastic cures. It's impressive because not only he gave meaning to their old age, he gave them meaning and guided them, and he illuminated this people's life experience, and he was able to do something fantastic with it. Life is entirely multi-reproductive. In the past, the idea of grandmother is an archetype. The Vedas are subordinate to their sacred books, and the grandmothers is an archetype of love and wisdom. Okay, so the past elderly were respected. In the Roman Senate, Senate come from senile. So it wasn't derogatory. It was the destiny of the city. Gather around the city's destiny. We've lost that. So because of this need, this goodness, he opened his heart, this big heart of his, and discovered a secret, a key of humanity. These old ladies are curing hundreds of people. Those who come to watch this video and TED Talks, that is also on YouTube, and of Dixon Shibanda, he pays tributes Grandma Jack. She sits down in a small stool. He pays tribute to this grandma that treated around 250 people. The 257th person, she couldn't go there to treat because she had already passed away, Grandma Jack. An illiterate old lady who sat on a small stool. She used all of her life experience guided by certain principles of therapy and cured people with depression. Refer them solve their equation that the person couldn't solve alone by using her life experience that a while before didn't mean anything. Suddenly, she was illuminated and redeemed by a mission. If you have a mission and are connected to the idea of good, you can redeem, illuminate, and give meaning to experience of life. This redeems the arbitrary. If I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have the possibility to teach that person. Understand that? It redeems your life. It redeems all of your life experiences because the arbitrariness puts life in all of the corners of life, and it makes maturity really be gifted with beauty and meaning. Or else people don't, and nowadays people don't think about that. And these old ladies don't have a formal education. They don't know, but they were able to do such a charitable work. And the world didn't even know this existed until now. And because of the goodness of this old man called Dixon Chibanda. I'm insisting, guys, because this is one of the most beautiful initiatives I've seen in the last decades. The other thing, be careful about complexes. I cannot do anything. I can't push humanity 1 millimeter in the direction of unit. Look, all human beings can. You are an exception. You are part of the species, right? So you can do it. There is no goodness gene. You can do it. You have that gene. Everybody does. So you can push 1 millimeter, 10 millimeters, but you can do a difference. You can definitely make a difference in people's lives. There is no existence without the necessities law behind. What brought you to the world was the law of necessity, because there is something that only you can do, one word that only you can pronounce, something that is only written in your papyrus. So you need to unroll that, and you have something to do, or else you wouldn't be here. You have your millimeter to push, have power to do it. And if you do, it justifies your life. You don't live in vain. And all human beings have it. Continuing. Be careful about pride. Oh, I've done a lot. I've done enough. If you are alive, it's because you haven't done enough. You have done something. But if there's still life, there's still a mission. Because all of our life is sustained through this thread. If we aren't good, we are living for what? There doesn't make any sense anymore. So the life is the one that know when it's enough. It will warn you about it. If we're alive, we're committed to goodness. Therefore, we should always ask, hey, what can I do for you today? Always, because that is a synonym of life and that justifies your life. Offering is also interesting and a powerful antidote to pride. Once more, Stephen Pressfield, in his beautiful book I've talked to you about, if the inspiration I receive comes from another place, not only from my selfishness, this mission I receive is a mission from nature, from life. So they aren't only mine, they're from life. I think my microphone fell here. Just a minute. It thinks its mission is over, but it's not over yet. There you go. He's proud. He's proud. So he recommends that an offering spirit. Offer the fruit of your work, the same source of inspiration of your work. It was from God that I received this offering mission, so the fruit are his. And he quotes a poem that was written, I don't know the origin of it, and it was inspired by an Indian classic, the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna, who is a god, turns to the man, in the case the Arjuna, who was the man in front of him, and says, they are forever free who renounce all selfish desires and break away from the ego cage of I, me, and mine to be united to the Lord. Imagine that as a divine saying this. They are forever free who renounce all selfish desires and break away from the ego cage of I, me, mine. In other words, the fruit is mine and will protect you from the pride from vanity. It will protect you from the complex, the name of who you do it for. You can do anything. The fruit is not yours, but so you don't suffer from the infraction of the ego that Jung was speaking about. I receive my inspiration, my silver thread comes, passes through me, and continues its journey. It's a word. In other words, do things in a sense of worship. So I don't do things to the interest of the fruit. Therefore, I come. If they come, they aren't mine. They are just offerings. To know that our limitations are paid in human pain. Someone is waiting for you in the future. Someone needs your goodness act. Oh, in the middle of the way, I've decided to take a break to think. I'm going to stand still here a little. That's not leisure, because leisure time is okay, but certain distractions are useless detention of pride for vanity, for weakness. And this person is going to pass there and she's going to be alone, and maybe she's in the middle of abyss, and that was the last opportunity. Therefore, all of the detentions due to weakness are paid with one coin, human pain. And if you think about that, it's not you're not going to stop for concessions, because that there's a high price to pay. So this is a reflection of a powerful ally of goodness. Those are things I'm telling you to do, and to write on your journals every morning to reflect upon this. It helps a lot. It's about that right word, that right idea that can keep you in motion. Zero tolerance with selfishness. When we notice an action that is guided by selfishness, react immediately. It doesn't admit procrastination because it doesn't generate precedents, so that you can later do things supported by that. If awareness identifies that selfishness, it stops right away. So look at selfishness as a disgusting bug. The female audience here, say with all your soul's honesty, what do you think about a cockroach? I'm already seeing a few clenching, twitching. Selfishness is a cockroach. Have I ever told you this before? It belongs to the family, and when you see it, it's a subtle cockroach, which will make it worse. It's worse than the concrete one because it makes things dirtier. So when you see it, you have to immediately throw it to the wall, scream, get a broom, throw a shoe, call someone, call the firefighters. React immediately to the presence of the cockroach. Don't leave it for later. Oh, I have a cockroach here, but I'm going to do that later. Nobody does that, at least not the women. React immediately. Zero tolerance with selfishness. It's our worst enemy to goodness. It's what always frustrates goodness. To save energy to life. What do I want to do? I want to benefit humanity. And my life energy is limited. All of us are limited. I have an amount of life energy, 80, 70 years, whatever it may be. It's a closed system with a limited economy. Look, I have a huge mission. I want to benefit humanity. I want to do good. I want to serve good. The neighbor has learned to play the drums. I can spend a little amount of energy to go there and complain to him, but it's not worth it. It's too expensive. I need that energy to do something else. Maybe I'll buy a noise canceling headphone, a earplug. There's always a neighbor that decides to study the drums, isn't it? The guy parked in front of my door, and I can go there and fight, but I'm going to spend so much energy. I have so many good things to do. If they stop to fight every time there's a drama neighbor, Leonardo da Vinci painting Mona Lisa, fighting over a cart that parked in front of Verrocchio's atelier. No, there is no energy for that. We have a mission. So let's save energy and skip the nonsense. Pressfield himself talks a lot about that. The true artist hates trouble. He has more things to do. So save your life energy from nonsense because you have a mission. You have a Mona Lisa to paint. You're painting and building yourself. Live with beauty, harmony. The Greeks called this kalosagatos. Goodness and beauty like to walk together. Beauty is a powerful harmonizer. And harmony is the secret of unit. The unit is harmonious. It's not a pile, it's harmonious. So live together with beauty and having beautiful in the words, gestures. Look at yourself and say, am I beautiful today? Am I treating people beautifully? Am I dealing with things beautifully? Am I distributing beauty? Do you know where this distributed beauty came from? This dakalos, which is the origin of the datics, to distribute beauty. Am I distributing beauty? Am I harmonizing everywhere I go? Beauty is a goodness assistant. Purify our taste and search for beauty. Finally, goodness is fullness. Thank you. In the end of the day, it gives you this one. I don't need to wait a lot for that. And tonight when I go to bed, I need to feel whole and peace with heaven and earth. I did what corresponded to a man. I fulfilled my mission as a human being today. I am even with my day today. In other words, I was a human being. I've left a human path. So I can go to bed and feel an absolute peace, serene, harmonious. There's no pee under my mattress. I really like this because I've put a cliff in the Alps and a passage from Counts that said, observation of the feeling of beautiful and sublime. It's good for you to get in touch with the sublime sometimes. As a cliff of the Alps, for example, a rough sea, because the great things first give you fear. Wow, how immense that is. Right after, if you remain a little while more, they will rescue your dignity. Do you know why? Because you face the cliff of the Alps and say, you can kill me, but you cannot corrupt me. I am as great as you. If I'm worthy and I'm a human being, you can kill me, but not corrupt me. Therefore, you possess an identity and a power that puts you face to face as equal to the sublime. You become sublime. When the human being is truly human, he becomes sublime. No cliff of the Alps or rough sea can bend you or embarrass you. It can kill you, but not humiliate you. So that is the idea of goodness. Goodness is a fundamental attribute that makes us stand up in the face of any life greatness, facing any suffering in life. and a being that is really someone that is relevant for life, humanity, and itself. And it's the mother of all virtues. It's, in the end of the day, it's the one that guides all children.